Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy.
Welcome to the dark side, everyone, and another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. We are on the main account, Week 2, Round 3 in the Grand Arena Championships. Today's opponent is named ArKh. We will be fighting them for the first place position. So without further ado, let's take a look at the hotbot report and see what's in store for us. Taking a quick glance, we can see most of the green is on our side, so we do have the advantage in this matchup. Taking a look at the stats, we are a lot more efficient than our opponent. Although they do have more lifetime banners than us, it's most likely because they've played for a longer time than us. We know this because we have a massive amount more undersized battles than them and more than 3 times as many clears. In the summary, our opponent does have slightly more GP than us, but our top 65 is way more efficient. We have 3 more ZETAS compared to our opponent and double his amount of G13s. In the mod and relic summary, we have a massive advantage with all the green on our side. We heavily outspeed our opponent and have double his amount of relics. Taking a look at the key and meta character report, we have both Darth Revan and Malak. Our opponent does not. They do have a relic GBA, which can be quite concerning. Other than that, nothing here to be worried about. With ships, we clearly have the advantage, having at least one of the meta fleets being Negotiator, and our opponent has none. Our Houndstooth is slightly faster because we have higher relics on our Bossk. Before going into the arena, let's just take a look at our opponent's roster. Based on our opponent's history for GAC, we know that our opponent likes to go pretty heavy on defense. Now, as you can see, there are only 4 relic characters at this point. The hotbot report was pulled slightly after the matchup, which is why there's only 1 relic character difference. So my overall thoughts on this guy's roster is that it is a very deep roster with nothing too heavy at the top, so this isn't going to be a very difficult matchup. And as always, we will check the speeds before going into the GAC. I cannot stress this enough, guys. It is a very big benefit for you to do this before going in, so that you have a wider knowledge of what could be on the board. Even though we know we outspeed our opponent, it's always nice just to check to see what speeds they have, so we can work out which teams we want to assign to attack which squads, because at this GP level you don't always have the needed counter for that team. This could also be said for higher GP matchups. You never know if you don't have the right gear or speed to take on a team being the obvious counter. So now let's take a look at his ships. Just based on his Fleet Arena squad, we can see he does have some knowledge about team synergy. Even though our opponent has got relic clones, which makes his Galactic Republic fleet a lot stronger, the lack of synergy from the other ships needed to make that fleet work will make it a lot easier for us to deal with. So we know most of the threat is going to come from the dark side ships. But of course it won't be enough to get through Negotiator. Moving on to the matchup in the arena, let's take a look at what our opponent has set on defense. And I really think that we're going to get some defensive holds. Just as predicted, our opponent failed to get the full clear, which definitely changes the mentality going into this matchup. We know now all we need to do is clear the board to get the win. When it comes to the last round of the week, you want to be as not only efficient as possible, but you also just want to focus on getting the win, because 2 Zetas are on the line, and sacrificing a few banners just to get the win will definitely work out in your favor. Now of course, each banner does count if you're wanting to place well at the end of the season, but if you are just trying to hunt for banners and you're taking too many risks, all it takes is one mess up and you could lose your entire round. So it's not worth it if it's going to be the last round of the week. Again, we are checking speeds. Now with Django's lead, he gives 30 plus speed to the bounty hunters. Now a lot of people sometimes forget that, or even if they are aware of it, they think, oh, it's not that much of a threat. But trust me, from our past experiences, we know the bounty hunters can be a thorn in your backside, so you don't really want to take chances there. So after looking at our opponent's front line, we know from the history of his GACs that he places Geonosians on defense. Now because they're not on the front line, we know for sure they're going to be in the back line, so we're going to hold Vader for that. Going into the first battle, we are going to be taking on the bounty hunters with Darth Revan. Because of Django's lead, he does give Bosk, I think it's about 3 or 4 extra speed than my boss, so they would take the first turn. This has been one of my most reliable counters against bounty hunters, especially ones that are going to pose quite a bit of threat. And as we know from the last video, the bounty hunters did kind of catch me off guard. The strategy going into this matchup is going to be manipulating the fear on our opponents. By doing this, we reduce their amount of turns they can take and also the amount of incoming damage. Of course, banner preservation is something we really want. So with Basila's fear, once the fear expires, our opponents get stagger and a whole bunch of other debuffs. If you hit an opponent with stagger, it completely removes their turn meter. So this is what we are going to work around in this battle. Every time someone has a high enough turn meter, if they have stagger, they will become our prioritized target. Again, this is our goal. We don't want our opponent taking turns. And there we go, 61 banners, like taking candy from a babe. Generally, this is how the Darth Revan battles go. So I highly recommend, if you do have Darth Revan, put some gear into him, put the ZETAS on. It really does make a difference in your GAC matchups. Up next, we will be taking on the Jedi. Now with JKR lead, it can be quite deceiving because he does give 5 speed for each Jedi and Old Republic character on the squad at the start of the encounter. This is why we opted for the mirror match. Our Jedi squad is a lot higher geared and a lot faster than theirs. By doing this, we know we got the guaranteed win in this battle, whereas if we took in another team, there could have been a chance that something bad would have happened. The strategy going against the JKR squad is to take out Yoda as quickly as possible to trigger JKR's Savior. Once Savior has been triggered, we can either take out Yoda to reduce the amount of turn meter and buffs that the enemy team gets, and then our priority target is to take out Jolee. Jolee needs to go because he will revive all the Jedis, which completely just stops all the hard work you put in. Once Jolee is gone, you will be taking out the next available threat, which could be Yoda if he's still there, or JKR. The thing about Jedi squads is that they are quite durable and they have so many heals and tax out of turns, which because of JKR's lead they gain 20% extra protection. So you want to take them out as quickly as possible, prioritize one at a time and get the job done. Now the thing about this counter is that it's only working because we are high geared and high ready. If it was a more even matchup, it would have taken a lot more time and possibly risked a timeout. There we go, we got 58 banners, not too shabby. Now that we have cleared the front zone, we can take a look at what's in the back, and as predicted, the Geonosians are there, as well as a Padme team, but they are really low geared. Once you have opened up the back zone, it is now easier to assign counters to the remaining teams. Once again, we are checking the mods. We don't want to run into a situation where we are inadequately prepared. Up next, we will be taking on the Geonosians with our typical counter, Palpatine and Vader. So just to be on the safe side, because our opponent has G12 Geonosians, we are going to bring in a third character here. Normally, Thrawn would be the ideal third character here, but as you know, we like to use Thrawn as the lead against weaker teams. So we will prompt for Leia here because her Isolate is going to do the same job as Fracture. So our strategy for this matchup will be the same as always. Because of Palpatine's lead, we will start off with Vader's Crush. Because of each debuff landed, we will gain extra turn meter and immediately go into Merciless. We will then bounce around and hit all the bugs to reduce the health pool. Normally by now we would be able to cull the GBA, but because they have high tenacity, we don't have as many dots as we would like on them. Unfortunately, our Leia isn't very high geared and hasn't got that much speed, otherwise we would have been able to get our Isolate off by now. Because of this, we are getting our counterattacks and unfortunately they do start to do some damage, but this doesn't mean that it's over. Once we have used Isolate on the Brute, the battle becomes a lot easier and we can immediately go into Merciless again with Vader because of the amount of turns that he has taken. We try to put some more dots on the board, but GBA is resisting. It is quite a nuisance. Of course, a high tenacity GBA is the bane to this counter's existence. I do recommend that if you do use this counter, you should put a lot more potency on your Vader. After taking out some of the bugs with Vader's basic, the health pool does start to drop a bit, and we will soon be able to take out the GBA. One more turn and Vader will be able to go into his Merciless again and end the battle for us. Even though our Trey isn't very well geared, she is still quite resilient. Now that Vader's in his merciless, we can start finishing off this battle. Even though the health pool has dropped quite a bit, I'm not sure how this works, but because there aren't many Geonosians left, we can start landing some debuffs on GBA. Not sure how that affects the tenacity, but somehow it did. We take out the GBA, we take out the Brute, and finally we're left with Sunfac, quite the tank, but no match for the Sith Lords. Not the best battle banner wise, but we got through it with 60 banners, which is still great. In the high GP brackets, a more common counter for this would be Trey lead with Scion and Nihilus. But of course, at this GP level, our priorities are on a different path. We are going to move up to their top zone to take out their next strongest team, which is going to be the Sisters of the Night. We will give our bounty hunters a chance at redemption. As you know, we don't usually use our bounty hunters against Night Sisters, because we've had some bad things happen in the past. But I do feel a little bit more confident now that we have Greek Karga at 7 stars in our bounty hunter team. The ideal strategy going into this match is to take out 2 of the Night Sisters so that you get rid of zombies' revives. Once that's happened, you can then start picking them off one by one. But, of course, with the bounty hunters, we have some anti-revive mechanics. So if we kill one of the Night Sisters with Boba Fett's execution rocket, then they cannot be revived. The same can be said for Jango Fett if we had the Zeta on him, which states that if he kills someone on his turn, they cannot be revived. Again, this is the ideal situation, but as you can see in the matchup, our rockets haven't always been on target. The key to beating the Night Sisters is to have a lot of health and protection recovery on a team, and to get them out as quickly as possible. You do not want Asajj Ventress to be able to ramp up her damage if she has the Zeta on her, and you don't want the plague to spread too much that it's going to start killing off your team. Now that our bounty hunters have their contract triggered, this battle should go a lot easier. Of course, the AI being the noob it is, they go after Jango Fett, who has the damage immunity, which definitely works out in our favor. We are using our AoE abilities as frequently as possible because we're trying to gain back our protection and health to get as high banners as possible when the battle ends. Right now we're just trying to damage them as frequently as possible until we can get around to our mass attacks and to Boba Fett's rocket. So far so good, our bounty hunters have been keeping their own. Now we have the mass attack by Greek Karga and all those buffs. We're going to start dealing some massive damage. Down goes Daka, rockets by Jango taking out 2 birds for 1 stone, and last but not least, the zombie. It is all over. Our bounty hunters have taken their revenge. 59 banners, they managed to snipe a banner from us. But all's good in the hood, a win's a win. Now that the most threatening teams are done, it's the last 2 weak teams on the board. We will go over to the bottom zone to get that cleared. It is the low geared Padme team. We will use our CLS team on them. I honestly think I should have used Thrawn here as the 4th instead of R2-D2 so that we could get some banner recovery, because as you know, CLS isn't the best with banner maintenance on their team. Going into the battle, we aren't going to stick to the usual strategy because they are low geared. If you were to use the usual strategy, you would want to take out Anakin first, because we don't want him taking bonus turns if he was a higher gear level. All that damage would cause a lot of problems. So, to start things off, we want to take out Padme. Once Padme is gone, we can attack out of turn as much as we want without them getting their bonus protection. We stun Anakin to reduce the amount of incoming damage and put our team under stealth except for CLS, because CLS can recover his health and protection from his 3rd ability, and the rest of the team has very little to none protection recovery. Hence why the name of the game for this team is to stun and control the situation as much as possible. Now that all the main threats are gone, we will be able to finish up the battle without any issues. That being said, if Thrawn was here, we would have been able to finish with a lot better banners. 57 banners, not bad, but could have been better. As long as we got the clear though, we're still going to get the win, so we're not too stressed about how efficient we have to be this round. Onto the last ground team will be the Phoenix, the most common filler squad in the lower divisions. Our Geonosians will make short work of this Phoenix team. Unfortunately, our Thrawn is going to waste this time around, Like I said, he should have been used on the CLS team. Although we could have easily undersized this Phoenix team with our Geonosians, we wanted to just get through the battle and move on to ships as quickly as we could, because there was no point in worrying about having to undersize because we have already won. Going into the battle, we are going to use our usual strategy of trying to take out Hera first. Once Hera is gone, Ezra and Chopper become our next targets, whichever one becomes more feasible in the moment. Even though the Phoenix team is quite widely known as a trash team, they can be quite a nuisance and the battles tend to drag on quite a bit, especially when they've been geared up way above the minimum requirements to unlock Thrawn, when usually after you've unlocked the 7-star Thrawn, you would just stop gearing the Phoenix completely, unless of course you're a big Phoenix fan. Now with Hera gone, we are going to remove the Taunt from Kanan so that we can focus our firepower on Chopper and Ezra. And boom, bye bye Ezra. Spy is like one of those bugs in the wild that you just don't want to be bitten by. The nice thing about the Geonosians is they have a lot of health and protection recovery. But you should always try to keep in mind that using GBA's third ability to heal the health and protection, you want to at least have that ability available at the end of the battle. So the timing is quite crucial, especially if you are trying to preserve banners. So at this point we are just waiting for Cannon to get low enough so that we can use one big hit and finish off the battle. And to my surprise, it wasn't Spy that finishes off the battle, but the Brute, ending off the battle for us with 60 banners. Don't mind if I do. Now that all the groundwork has been done, let's take a look at the ships and see what our opponent has placed on defense. And at this point, our opponent still has not made any attempts to attack again. They are definitely done. It is a rebel fleet on defense with a Umbraran fighter. Very odd, but we did expect a mixed fleet. So we will be using our rebel fleet on offense, which has a lot more synergy and has become one of our favorite offensive squads when it comes to fleets. I think it's safe to say we can undersize here, not because we're worried about that extra one banner, but because of their lack of synergy in the fleet, we should still be able to take them out, no problem. So our strategy going into this fleet battle is that we need to get rid of their Millennium Falcon as well as Umbraran Fighter. Now the reason why is because their Umbraran Fighter is at relic levels, so they will deal quite a bit of damage, especially if we don't take them out soon, because they do ramp up in damage. Rebel Y-Wing is an absolute savage. If you can land shield disruption on your enemy tank, it will take away all of their protection and you'll be able to take them out as easy as that. This is also a great tactic if you are facing up against a high relic Hound's Tooth. Shield disruption definitely stops them in their tracks. Even though the fleet we are facing is not fully rebel, it is still proving to be quite the nuisance, because there is still some synergy there with the amount of rebel ships that they have in this fleet. But still, it will not be enough to stop us. So, to end the battle, I'm going to fast forward and I'll catch you guys at the end. So, not being able to take out Millennium Falcon at the beginning, left him for the end. 66 banners, don't mind if I do. Ending the last round of the week on a crushing victory and a full clear definitely heightens the spirits, and cannot complain getting those nice 2 well needed ZETAS from the rewards. Our opponent didn't come back to try another attempt. I guess Leia's mom really has got it going on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. It does take a lot of time and effort to make these videos for you guys, so it will be appreciated. Peace!